Hi all, Fuzzy Barbarian here again. I've got a build to show you guys today that I wouldn't really recommend for normal gameplay, but I wanted to show it to you just the same because of its ability to do massive damage in the right scenario. First, check out the damage numbers here from a few Shrikes in the level 330 Marabashi mission. That was more than 55,000 damage from a single Shrike. So yeah, as you can see, these are some pretty crazy damage numbers for a Shrike attack. On the last boss, I'll still use the standards like Carnage and a weapon effect, but I won't proc all the other stuff, just so you guys can see how much lower the damage dealt instantly becomes. So yeah, there you have it. Huge damage numbers that are basically human boss obliterating numbers. You can see the build right there. The sword I'm using hasn't been customized for this build. I saw no need to do that. I'm using the Shishio and Honikui sword as it has the highest attack of all dual swords, and a lot of the perks of this build are close combat attack, which buffs us based on our attack value. My main equipped long range weapon is also helping, as I have agility damage bonus of A+ on that. As far as sets go, there's only one, and that's the Warrior of the West set. I'm using 5 pieces of it because the 5th piece gives us an extra 32.9% close combat attack when enemies are electrified. One of the magic shots in this build is Lightning, which activates that 32.9% extra close combat attack from the moment we cast it. Well, at least it does on human enemies. It would be great to get the 7-piece Warrior of the West bonus perk, which would give us an extra 14.1% close combat damage. But to do that, we would need a Yasukani Magatama, so that we only needed to wear 6 pieces of the set to get the 7th bonus perk. On top of that, the Yasukani would also have to give us a close combat attack when the enemy is poisoned perk as well. I'm yet to get a Yasukani with that perk on it. I know it exists because I've gotten Yasukanis with the Paralysis Close Combat Attack perk, which is of the same archetype. If I had a Yasukani with poison on it, I'd be swapping the Nioh Mage's Joe armor piece for another Warrior of the West armor piece. With that one small change, this would become so damaging it's crazy. For now, I've merely got the Nioh Mage's Joe piece there because I was working on a magic build for farming, and in doing so managed to roll perfect equipment and item drops of 25% on that armor piece, as well as unlimited Onmyo. So until I get that Yasukani with extra poison damage, I'm just leaving it there for its drop perks. The close combat attack when the enemy is poisoned perk is the biggest damage dealing buff here. To maximise that, I have 2 amulets on that have the perk. One gives me 23.2% extra attack and the other gives 24.6%. My head armour is the Coiled Snake Kabuto because it too gives the same perk. I have a separate video for how to get this armour piece, by the way. When you do have it, you gain an extra 29.9%. All in all, you can see there with those 3 items, we get a massive 77.7% extra close combat attack when the enemy is poisoned. That is huge. This stacks with the close combat attack of 32.9% when the enemy is electrified that we're getting from the Warrior of the West set. It also stacks with the close combat attack perk given by Clan Shima, which gives an extra 10% against enemies with status elements. Kato is the best guardian spirit for this setup. Kato gives us an extra 12.5% close combat attack, which stacks with all the others, as well as 20% more if we do skill attacks, which we pretty much nearly always do. Other guardian spirits like Karajishi and Tenjin Kujaku can be good too if all you use is Windstorm, but they have their limitations. For example, with Tenjin, you'll need to be popping extraction talismans all the time and always be in high stance no matter what. With Karajishi, you'll need to have already done damage with a skill attack to get the extra damage in subsequent attacks. In both cases, their attack buffs are temporary, which isn't always helpful when you need to always time your damage before your status ailments run out. Since this build is best against humans, and since humans tend to block Windstorm attacks pretty well if you don't time them well enough, well, you can find yourself losing your status ailments and your attack buffs from your guardian spirits all at the same time. With Kato, that is way less of an issue, especially since you're not limited to any one type of attack to make it work. You can use Shrike, Windstorm, Sign of the Cross, whatever. They all work with Kato and this build. Shrike in particular will end bosses instantly, so I don't really see a reason to have a guardian spirit that doesn't allow you to use that. So yep, I wouldn't bother with any spirit other than Kato. I also have human close combat damage and yokai close combat damage maxed out with my titles. I have a video on how to do that as well. And don't forget to put attack on all your armor pieces by inheriting it from gloves. Showing you my core stats here is pretty irrelevant. The vast majority of damage here is coming from buffs. Yes, I'm over level 500, but level doesn't matter near as much as the build itself. Still, if you're a lot lower in level, that means you have less points to allocate to your core stats, so you'll have to pick and choose to begin with. To start off, you'll need 12 body and 13 strength to wear the Coiled Snake Kabuto. That'll be more than enough to wear the Warrior of the West set too, even if you got it from Revenants rather than Forging. You'll need only 10 spirit to use Kato. Skill and heart are your priorities for scaling the attack value of your dual swords. Go skill first and heart second. Aim to get 99 in skill with change to attack skill on your weapon. Then switch to putting your points into heart. Magic and dexterity wise, only put enough into them to unlock the skills you specifically want. Pick a skill to unlock, then put the points into your stats to get what you need to unlock it. Do this one by one. That way you won't waste any of your Amrita on core stats you don't need. The ones you definitely need, aside from all the passives of all the skill trees, are the ones we have here in our shortcuts. Weakness Talisman, Blister Beetle Powder for the poison, Lightning Shot and Water Shot. In the second shortcut panel, that's where I have my Elixir, Carnage Talisman and Galnut Broth for applying poison to my sword. Where I have Sloth, you could put another Magic Shot, maybe Earth Shot, or you could put a Protection or Steel Talisman if you want. I have Sloth there right now, and there's a good reason for that, which I'll get to in a moment. Skills wise, get all the passives for all the weapons, as these apply all of the time. Dual sword wise, you want Sign of the Cross. Make sure you get all the passives like Tacky Arts, and another one would be Defense Arts right there. You want Momentum as the Mystic Art of choice. On the left hand side here, these are listed as active, but if you read that, low stance only enables you to use key pulses even when dodging. That's a passive ability that once you unlock it applies to all of your weapons. You can get the same ability for medium and high stance, so you want to unlock all of those. Make sure you unlock the Shrike, and that's about it for the crucial things for your dual swords. Again, all passives of all the weapons. If we go across to Ninjutsu, the Enlightenment is the Mystic Art that you want. Also, Galnut Broth for putting poison on your weapon, and Blister Beetle Powders they're the things that the bombs that we're throwing at the human bosses that procs poison on them almost straight away. They're far superior than trying to do it with your weapon. I have it on my weapon because it helps, but it's a lot harder to apply poison to any enemy with your weapon than it is with one of these Blister Beetle Powders. I have Hemlock Broth unlocked as well because I was testing Paralytic Effect, but it's not very good. The problem with the Paralytic Effect is once you put it on an enemy, if you hit that enemy again, you actually switch it off. So unless you can perfectly time when you know it's going to take effect, it's very hard to get it to stick, and once you do have it stick, you don't really get the benefit of any extra damage as a result of the Paralytic Effect because it comes off almost straight away. I'm yet to work a way out to make the Paralytic Effect status of any benefit whatsoever. So I tested it, that's why I've got unlocked, but don't bother, it's not worth it. I also have Quiver Maker and Bowmaster added. Extra damage, you can put the same for your rifles or your cannons. Definitely Dashing and Cloud Runner, I max those out regardless of heavy builds or light builds. Just extra speed and less ki is always good. I've got Tiger Running Scrolls, I haven't been using them, but I max that out. You don't need to max it out for this build if you don't use them. Quick Change Scroll, same thing, save your life if you die, but I haven't been using it with this particular build. It is a staple of other builds though, I like having it there, so if you've got the points, I recommend having that. Definitely Ki used in Evasive Roll, I max that out as well. Snakebite Technique increases recurrent damage dealt by 5%, that's a good passive to have. I have Power Pills. I unlocked a couple of slots on that just to test them out versus Carnage. You don't lose any defense ability when you pop Power Pills, but they still don't do as much damage as Carnage when all factors are equal, so Carnage is definitely the best as far as damage dealing goes. If you want balance though and you don't want to take more damage while you're attacking, then sure, Power Pills are pretty good. And of course, Ninja Tool Mastery to increase the capacity of ninjutsu that you can carry. Magic wise, you'll see I've got a lot unlocked here. Most of that is because I've been testing and I haven't I've gotten rid of what I've already unlocked for the purpose of this video. But Weakness Talisman, that is one of the shortcuts we've been using. Sloth Talisman, also one of the shortcuts, especially against Yokai bosses. We've got, I've unlocked all of the elemental shot talismans, so you've got Fire Shot, Water Shot, Lightning Shot and Wind Shot. You can use any one of those in any order that you like. However, for this particular build, you definitely want Lightning Shot as a priority because that procs the Warrior of the West extra 32% close combat attack damage. After I proc Lightning, I like to proc Water next. Water increases damage on subsequent attacks. You can choose Fire if you want that as the next one, because that's a little bit like Poison in that you get ongoing damage once you proc that. Or you could choose Wind or Earth, it's up to you. I actually didn't find Fire to really work as well as I thought it should, so I tend to use either Wind or Earth. I haven't really got a preference for either of the two at the moment. Pretty much Lightning and Water are the keys for me there. I had extra points to put into defenses against our elements as well. If you don't have those, you don't need to unlock those. Those are just, I've got the points and I've unlocked them, but if your points are sparse, then yeah, you'll put them into those last. Same with all these talismans, Water Talismans, Lightning Talismans and Earth Talismans. I'm not using those at all in this build because we're applying a poison effect to our weapon. However, versus Yokai Realm, that passive is one to get. And also, if you want to use Protection Talismans instead of where we had Sloth on the shortcuts, you could use those. Reduces damage from Yokai by 2%. Evil Ward, you want that. Carnage Talismans, you want to max that out as well. You also want Vital Spirit, or Sprit as they've written it in there, for more Amrita. Not essential though, so if you're scarce on points, you can leave that. Same with Increased Luck. Pretty much that, I upgraded that because I've been working on farming builds, but you don't need that for this particular build, nor do you need the extension on the living weapon. But you do want Incantation Mastery to get extra room for your Omnio magic. So as you can see, a lot of what I've got here in my magic tree is not essential for this build at all. Pretty much what is essential is any of the passives there that give you extra damage or extra ki usage, and also at least, well, at minimum three shots, and I say choose Lightning, Water and either Wind or Earth as your preference. Okay, I already said I wouldn't recommend this build for normal gameplay. That's because against human bosses, this build excels, but against yokai bosses, not so much. Yokai are way more resistant to magic casts. It can take multiple casts of one element type to get it to stick, which you then have to double up on to proc Confusion. And unlike human bosses, yokai bosses tend not to temporarily freeze when you hit them with a shot, mainly because they don't block. So without blocking, they have higher resistance, and since they're generally also pretty fast and don't freeze as much, it can make it way more challenging to set up your confusion and poison combos before the boss is on you. In difficult boss levels, it can be actually impossible to do it without getting hammered. Of course, that's not quite the case if you put Sloth on every Yokai boss you fight, then it's not so bad. I'm not anti-Sloth at all, use it if you want to is my view, but still, I tend to think a good build is one that doesn't rely on Sloth to be effective, and right now, against Yokai bosses, this one kind of does. That's why I have Sloth in my shortcuts. But with that said, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you can't use this build well even without Sloth, because you can, but Yokai bosses will be way more challenging than they would otherwise be if you were using a build that places no reliance on proccing status effects. And if you're trying to farm Yokai bosses with this build, well, to that I would say don't bother without using Sloth at all. The thing is though, I'm only saying all that about this specific build, as in the one in this specific video. I wouldn't be saying this if I had that Yasukani Magatama I talked about earlier. With the Yasukani with poison damage, you could get the extra close combat damage from another Warrior of the West piece. With that, well, it won't matter if you're fighting Yokai or human bosses. In fact, I'd go as far as to say I think you'd have the strongest build in the game for putting out damage from a variety of skills in a variety of situations without having to go critical. I'll be sure to post that build if ever I do get a Yasukani with poison on it, that's for sure. But despite not having it, I thought you guys would appreciate seeing this build in its raw form anyway. And who knows, maybe some of you already have the poison Yasukani to play with right now. If so, just add that extra Warrior of the West set item and you'll be golden. Well, that's it for another vid guys. I hope you got some ideas from it for your own builds. Until the next one, bye for now.